the 21st of October 2022, corresponding to the 25th of Rabiul Awwal 1444. As usual, we are broadcasting live to Luton on 105.1 FM. We're also broadcasting live to our partner stations across the UK, including Sheffield Link FM, Peterborough, Salam, Derby, Nottingham. Assalamu alaikum to all our listeners in all of those respective geographies. For listeners elsewhere in the UK, nationally or internationally, of course, tuning in via either the Inspire FM app or website. If not, we are, of course, streaming live on most of the social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, etc., etc. Please do remember to like us tonight. Do remember to leave a comment. Do remember to join tonight's conversation. And I think the key operative word that we're discussing tonight is instability. All right, it's chaos out there. We're going to be discussing chaos, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in Pakistan, or whether it's in Iran. But it looks like that the word that we're really going to be discussing tonight is instability, right? So tune in and most importantly, join tonight's discussion and debate. 01582481822. 01582481822. And if you want to SMS or WhatsApp me, it's 00779 481 822. And I've got a brilliant panel lined up tonight, inshallah, to help me navigate tonight's conversation. I mean, how do we make sense of what's going on? How do we make sense of what's going on in the UK? I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, I've seen all the hilarious jokes going around, whether it's, musical chairs before it comes to the Chancellor or whether it comes to Prime Minister. It's absolute shambles. It's chaos. I mean, how do you describe what's going on at the moment in the UK at the moment? Of course, I'm referring to the Conservative Party and the government to be the government as is in the UK. So we've lost another Prime Minister and there's another election or a candidate election to decide who's going to be the leader of the Conservative Party and the UK PM, right? So we're going to be discussing that, and hopefully our panelists are going to be shedding a bit of light on in terms of what's going on, and more importantly, what does it actually say about democracy in the UK? I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, but it seems like shambles to me from where I'm looking at it from. Also, we're going to be actually discussing a quick update from Pakistan because I've just received news earlier that Imran Khan, I don't know if you've heard this news, but Imran Khan, former Pakistan Prime Minister, has been barred from holding public office, right? That's an interesting story that's just emerged over the last, I think, hour or so. Pakistan Election Commission has disqualified ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan from holding public office in a case the former cricketer has described, not surprisingly, as politically motivated. Now, Imran Khan has been accused of incorrectly declaring details of presents from foreign dignitaries and proceeds from the alleged sale. The gifts include a Rolex watch or Rolex watches, a ring, and a pair of cufflinks. Now, when I read that, I thought, I mean, what his predecessors have done in comparison to that? I mean, there's no comparison, is there? I mean, Rolex watches. I mean, we're talking about millions being taken from the government, coffers. Never mind a couple of Rolex watches and a ring and a pair of cufflinks. If that's what we're going to hold against Imran Khan. But anyway, let's find out what's going on there. And last but not least, in the second half an hour of the show, we're discussing Iran, and of course, Iran's been making headlines for a number of weeks for a number of different reasons. Actually, we're going to be speaking to Masood Sharjah, chairman of Islamic Human Rights Commission. We're going to be getting an update on what's going on in Iran. What's currently destabilizing Iran is the internal, external factors, and we're going to be trying to shed some light upon the situation in Iran. So that's the lineup tonight. So let's go straight into our first half an hour where we're discussing Liz Truss resigns as Prime Minister. We're also discussing Imran Khan, and I'm really honored to be joined by Muhammad Amin, former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum. Now, he's a former chairman. Interesting to find out when he became a former chairman as opposed to a chairman. But it'll be interesting to find out what he makes of what's going on in the Conservative Party. And we also, got our honourable, esteemed brother Bashar Ali, of course, from Amman Solicitors. and a leading commentator, presenter, analyst, also features on Islam channel. MashaAllah, your views on the news. And we've also got Brother Bashar Ali joining us. So hopefully we're going to try to make some sense of what's going on together. Let me go straight to Muhammad Amin, actually. And let me speak to Brother Muhammad Amin and just try to find out. Brother Muhammad Amin, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Friday Night Live. Great to have you on Inspire FM. As a former a member of the Conservative Party, I mean, what do you make of what's been happening in the Conservative Party? Absolute chaos, isn't it?
Walaikum Assalam, Hafiz. First of all, can I answer a preliminary question you asked about, which is, why am I the former chairman? The answer is I was expelled by the Conservative Muslim Forum for bringing the Conservative Muslim Forum into disrepute from the elections of the party chairman. My sin was that on BBC Radio 4's Today programme, I told Britain that I thought that Boris Johnson was morally unfit to be Prime Minister. I think that proved right. And I resigned from the Conservative Party the day that he became its leader. And I'm now the Democrat Party.
Mohammed Amin, so who do you think should be out there in the forefront? Because at the moment it's almost musical chairs going on within the Conservative Party and the premiership of the UK government.
Well, obviously the Conservative Party has to choose its own leaders, but all of us as bystanders have opinions. And in my opinion, of the two candidates that they had in the summer, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, one of them was telling people the facts, which people didn't want to hear, the Conservative Party members. The other one was peddling fantasies, and the party members chose the fantasies. Rishi Sunak would have been a much better choice. And no candidate has declared so far, apart from Penny Mordaunt. But the three who are being talked about are Rishi Sunak, Penny Mordaunt, and Boris Johnson, who wants to make a comeback. And of those three, I think Rishi Sunak will be the best choice.
All right, let's go straight over to our guest, Brother Bashar Ali. Bashar Ali, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Friday Night Live. I'm sure you're going to be discussing this story, on your own show on Islam channel, if you haven't already discussed it. But I mean, UK politics at the moment. What's your views on what's been happening in the Conservative Party and the musical chairs around the Prime Minister, and more so? I mean, it'd be interesting to hear your views on the so-called democracy that we're seeing in the UK and the mockery that is become globally at the moment.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much for that introduction and for inviting me onto your show. Look, in theory, democracy is supposed to be the government of the people, by the people, for the people. The reality is it's a plutocracy. It always has been a plutocracy. And now that plutocracy is visible even to those who are blind. Because Liz Truss has been thrown out because the markets didn't like what she said. The markets didn't approve. Effectively, she didn't resign, she was thrown out. And the reality is that the Tory party, like its predecessors, whether the Liberal coalition between Clegg and Cameron, or Blair for that matter in recent times, they've singularly failed the people of this country, the most vulnerable people in this country. Many of those plutocrats, the super wealthy, the uber rich, they're always doing very well, no matter who's in power. So regrettably, it is a shambles, what you've described. I can only endorse what you've said. It is a shambles. And that is the nature of democracy at its best, I'm afraid.
I mean, the point that you just touched upon there, Brother Bashar, which is, representing the people. I mean, we've seen what the people are going through and the struggles and further discussions with regards to further cuts in public spending, etc. I mean, the changes that she proposed, especially the economic changes, were actually in favor of the elite and the rich. So what really led to that backfire in the markets, do you think, with regards to Liz Truss's position?
Well, as I said, you're right to say, in theory, those policies were potentially sound for many, particularly the poorest. But the reality is that Ms. Truss has affiliations to neoliberal right-wing think tanks, and these are the sort of people that ultimately call the shots. So the market, effectively, when you had the pound going south, the pension funds losing potential income, and there was going to be a run on them, and hence the Bank of England had to print fantasy money quantitative easing, right? Effectively, what you had is that the markets are being dominant in what goes on. So it's not the dog wagging the tail, it's the tail wagging the dog.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's get a last comment from Muhammad Amin, because we need to actually move on and discuss Pakistan, because obviously there's been a further turbulence and developments in the Pakistani politics. Muhammad Amin, I liked your comment earlier when you referred to Liz Truss versus Sunak and fantasy versus reality, right? And people chose fantasy. I mean, what makes you think that they can actually choose reality? I mean, isn't that the nature of politics? I mean, at the moment, there's this great, excitement again around bringing back, Boris Johnson, someone who you just said was, ethically not, or morally not fit to, stay in office and be the leader of the Conservatives. Never mind the leader of the UK government. He might be back in that position. I mean, it's quite a shambles. Obviously, I'm not surprised by the opposition saying let's call for a general election. Obviously, they're quite eager to get in power, and they're not going to get a better opportunity than they've got at the moment. That they've got at the moment with the Conservatives in disarray. What do you think realistically is going to happen over the next couple of days? I mean, any idea from your former colleagues in terms of who is a likely upcoming popular figure that's likely to make it through? And what of the Conservative Party? Do they stand a chance?
Well, I listened very carefully to the announcement yesterday by Sir Graham Brady, chairman of the 1922 committee, which is a committee of backbench Conservative MPs. And they set the rules for the leadership election subject to one point, which is that the party's constitution says that if there are two candidates, it must go to a vote of party members. And the constitution can't be changed just by the MPs. The constitution can only be changed by a much more complicated process that involves all the constituency associations. So that's not realistic in the next few days. What the MPs are trying to achieve is, first of all, they've set the bar for nominations at 100 people to have to nominate you before you can be a candidate. Last time around, it was 20 people. And last time, there were lots of candidates. This time, mathematically, there can only be 3 candidates because you can't find 400 different Conservative MPs to sign nomination papers. They have also said that even if there are just 2 candidates, in which case normally the MPs wouldn't need to vote, the MPs will still have an indicative vote before the thing goes out to party members. And the secret hope that the leadership of the 1922 committee has is that when there are only 2 candidates, after they've had their indicative votes, the person who is behind will decide to drop out. In the same way, for different reasons, in 2016, when Theresa May became Prime Minister, Andrea Leadsom dropped out, frankly, because she put her foot in her mouth so badly. And so that's why what they want to see happen next week. Ideally, they want to have a new leader of the Conservative Party chosen next week by the MPs without actually a membership vote. But it's hard to achieve because of the party constitution.
But let me ask you a question, a last quick question, Mohammed. I mean, do you actually think is there any credibility at all in this whole process, or are you more aligned towards, I don't know if you are or not, the opposition's call for a fresh general elections, and do you think that's going to make a difference?
Well, the leader of my party, Sir Ed Davey, has also called for a general election, but a general election is not going to happen for the simple reason that the Conservative Party is massively behind in the polls. They will be slaughtered. So instead, they're going to keep going to the last possible moment because miracles might happen. I don't know if you know the story about the horse might talk. It's an old story from the Middle East, but that's where they are. A miracle might happen.
All right, Muhammad Amin, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're going to leave this story, but former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Right, listeners, we're going to move on, and we're going to go a few thousand miles away to Pakistan, where Imran Khan has been barred from holding public office. We've got a new guest that's going to be joining us, new panelist, Major Yasir Janjua, who started his military career in the 1990s, and of course he's an analyst, as a senior defense and security analyst, been on Friday Night Live on a number of occasions before, so I want to welcome him to the show tonight too. Assalamu alaikum, Yasir Sahab. How are you?
Thank you, Shaban.
Yeah, not too bad. Are you in Islamabad? Are you joining us from Islamabad tonight?
No, I'm actually traveling, so I'm not in Islamabad and not part of the turmoil that's going on in my home city. Well, although my family tells me my daughter is stuck, she can't get back home. She went to work and she can't get back home.
I've heard. Obviously, there's trouble out there in Islamabad at the moment. But let's go to you first directly, because I just heard this kind of a news flash about an hour ago. So this is quite breaking news. Was this something on the card? I know these kind of allegations and these processes been going on for a while. Were we expecting this?
Well, this was coming. This was coming for last many weeks, if not months, because the government, the sitting government, although they are only confined to Islamabad because they have no provinces under their control. Punjab and KPK and Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir are under PTI, and Sindh, if you say to some extent, is with the government because it's run by People's Party, and Balochistan is a coalition of many parties. So effectively, Islamabad is the only place where the federal government is operating from. And they know, and they've been seeing in the last 6 months or so, Imran Khan has been getting popular and actually, his popularity graph was actually at the lowest ebb in his entire political career on the day he was ousted from power. And ever since then, he's become a much bigger leader than he was or than he should have been. And all thanks to this party, this government, that they made him an even bigger leader. You see the massive crowd he's pulling in every single jalsa or the procession that he takes out. And I happened to attend one of them, sitting right behind him. And I saw how people are turning out to him. And do you think what they are doing today is going to add any credibility to their government or discredit him? No, absolutely not.
Okay, so let me go to Bashara. Bashara, I mean, you're quite a keen follower of events in Pakistan. I mean, I'm sure I know you follow global events, but Pakistan, I'm sure, is close to your heart too. Well, what do you make of what's going on here? I mean, there's been a campaign against Imran Khan for a while now within the establishment army, etc. At least some people will argue, right? And this is this a bit of a desperate attempt to really get rid of Imran Khan from the political process once and for all, or have they gone a bit too far? As Brother Yasser is saying, it's actually been counterproductive in making Imran Khan even more popular. What's your reading on things?
Well, look, it's not a secret that Imran Khan has massive suburban support, urban support in Pakistan, particularly, and generally throughout the country. This is a fact. The reason for that is that the people are sick of endemic corruption, which has plagued Pakistan for decades. But the essence and the simple point here is that the Pakistani establishment, and by that, of course, is the military elite, have made every single ruler and removed him. Ayub Khan brought in Bhutto, and Ziaul Haq executed him or assisted in his execution. Then Nawaz Sharif was brought in by Ziaul Haq, and you had Ghulam Asaq Khan interfering in the early 90s, and most recently Nawaz Sharif was also disqualified. And then now you have his right-hand man Ishaq Dar going back to the country. So I'll just I remember receiving a phone call from a friend of mine who works in the Turkish government just around election time, asking me, will there be a coup? And I said to him, quote, there will be a weak coalition government, the establishment will bring Imran Khan into power, and the day he disagrees with them, he will be thrown out. That's what's happened. So the hand of the establishment is very much in all of this. As for the Chief Election Commissioner's decision, Sikandar Raja Saab, basically it's just another predicate for removing somebody who is not kowtowing to the establishment of Pakistan.
Okay, all right, interesting, Bashar. Thank you very much. Yasser Saab, let's go back to, I mean, isn't there a legitimate case against Imran Khan here? I mean, rules are rules, right? I mean, if there's rules to say that gifts need to be declared officially in a proper manner for someone in office, then that's a rule that's applicable to all of them, right? But it does seem that whether it's Imran Khan, whether it's Nawaz Sharif, whether it's Zardari, all of them are in a habit of forgetting to declare these massive gifts or small gifts in this case.
Shaban, since I'm on a program and I shouldn't be looking like I am a supporter or a worker of a particular party, so I
Yeah.
have to give an unbiased opinion. But
Yeah.
however, whatever I might say, it might look like I am an Imran Khan supporter. The fact
Yeah.
of the matter is, before Imran Khan came to power,
Yeah.
the limit for paying for taking away the gifts from Tosha Khana was much lower. It's actually Imran Khan who raised it to 50%. So
Right.
now, whatever you take from Tosha Khana is 50%. You have to pay the 50% of its declared value, which is
Yeah.
declared by the government of Pakistan, and you pay that money when you take it away. So Imran Khan has actually raised the bar because previously Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani took away gifts from the Turkish president, and his wife took a necklace, and there was a hue and cry about it.
Yeah.
However, in diplomatic terms, if you
Mm.
say, I mean, legally speaking, Imran Khan has done nothing wrong in taking away the gifts. Actually, has given more money back to the government for those gifts. From
Well,
an
well,
ethical
well,
standpoint,
yes,
from an
yes,
ethical standpoint, some people say he shouldn't have sold these gifts into the open market, and that's something that I agree on.
yeah.
However, when it comes to the election commission, Article
Mm.
232 of the Elections Act of 2017
Yeah.
says that only a person can be disqualified by Election Commission of Pakistan if he has been found guilty by a court of law. And when we say court of law, means a sessions judge finding him guilty on the same case, and that's
Yeah.
not has happened. As a matter
But
of fact, Election Commission has to create a case against him under Article 190 of the Elections Act,
okay,
and that has
so
also not yet been done.
Yasser sir, we're going into a lot of the weeds, a lot of the details. I appreciate that. I mean, no, I mean, if you're putting up a case against this guy because of a pair of cufflinks, right, a ring and Rolex watches, I mean, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's very, very minute in comparison with when we're talking about apartments and penthouses, you know, that have been ascribed with the Sharif family, for example, right? So I mean, there's obviously a bigger agenda here. I think that's very clear for everyone to understand. Now, my question to Bashara is, what is that bigger agenda, Bashara? Because I mean, Pakistan's already going through a lot of instability at the moment. You know, politically, economically. You know, IMF right on top of it, all over the place. You know, it's just had floodings recently. I mean, there doesn't seem to be stability in Pakistan's almost a political, nasib, if I use an Urdu word, because it's just turmoil from one turmoil, from one turbulence to another turbulence. What's your kind of forecast on Pakistani politics at the moment, where we're heading?
Well, look, you raise a very, very important point. You have got 1/3 of the country that was submerged underwater, tens of millions of people, women, children, the most poor, the most deprived, and the most vulnerable are struggling. And Isaac Dar wants 40 crore rupees for back pay, who has come back to Pakistan. The reality is that whether Imran Khan Saab succeeds or not, I see nothing positive on the horizon. The country has been going south economically. It has been in decline for decades. Quite frankly, we have been subjugated to foreign agenda, i.e., I mean, Aslam Beg Saab, ex-retired military chief of staff, actually gave an interview recently where he was effectively confirming a lot of this stuff. This is not a secret. Regrettably and tragically, the lot of the average Pakistani, not the people that sit in the fancy defense and barrier towns and garden towns and model towns, who quite frankly are generally insulated from any difficulty. Your average Pakistani is suffering, will continue to suffer, because Pakistan has not delivered. You know, my late father-in-law left Amritsar in 1947. He was a schoolboy and he said to me, "Beta, main," to use Urdu, I'll translate, "Humne la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah ka nara suna aur utha ke sab kuch chal pade." We heard La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, the meaning of Pakistan, and we came in a dream. And he died a few years ago. He said we would never saw it, and we're unlikely to see it with the current setup. So it's the tragedy that the objective for which so much was sacrificed by so many has been betrayed to serve predominantly the American agenda. Our foreign policy and domestic policy, to larger extent or lesser extent, has been influenced by slavery to America, and it is still continuing.
All right. Yasser, let's come back to you. Obviously, you're saying that Imran Khan's popularity is on the increase. Bashar makes a good point, which is the reason why that is getting grassroots popular support is because people are fed up with corruption. People are fed up with the status quo, and they want to see a change. But it's arguable whether he brought about much change when he came in. But one thing that we're seeing consistently with all of these politicians, right, all of these parties, is some form of corruption, whether it's small corruption or big scale corruption, is corruption. I mean, what is the real hope for the people in Pakistan? After what we're seeing at the moment, with Imran Khan now being dismissed, an agenda there to get rid of Imran Khan. Obviously, they're going to go through the process and they're going to try to fight it. They're going to try to overturn that. But in the interim, it seems like he's off the radar. What is the real hope for people of change in Pakistan within the political spectrum?
Okay.
Is
Before I answer that, let me put the record straight so that your listeners know that the current ruling or the today's ruling only applies to this term in the parliament. So that means Imran Khan has not been banned for life. So he can contest the election in 2023 again. It's just a temporary ban on him, which deseats him from this parliament, okay, from which he has otherwise resigned. So, I mean, it's technically of no influence or no value on whatever he's doing. He's been asking for a new general election. Now, coming over to your point, if there is going to be a change for people of Pakistan, I think, by and large, Imran Khan individually has been incorruptible, and that's been proven that he's not taken any arms or he's not taken any, kickbacks for big contracts awarded to his friends or whatever. So he's beyond that. There might have been some people within his party who must have done something, but apparently in the last 6 months, the government has not been able to make a single case against any of his party members. So apparently Imran Khan's performance, even if he did not do well on the economic front, I think from the corruption point of view, he did fairly well. And on the economic front, he came with a lame duck parliament. He came with a lame duck government. When he came 3.5 years ago, he had to buy people's loyalties to get into the parliament, to get into the government, because he had to patch up with parties that he probably wouldn't look at them ordinarily.
But isn't that the problem? I mean, when you're buying people to join your party, then you're fundamentally just compromising your breath, right?
Hold your breath, Shaban. Hold your breath.
What
Imran Khan is saying, let the next election come, and there will be a clear-cut mandate that people of Pakistan will give to whichever party. They are fed up of all this, what is going on. This wrangling, this coming and back, coming and going. This will be over. So Imran Khan is of the hope, and the crowds that are coming out, and the election results of July 17 and the last Sunday tell you in volumes that Imran Khan is getting popular and popular, and in the next election, he will not be on those clutches that he was the last time. And if that happens, all those blackmailers within his party or from other parties, they will know where they belong, and he'll put them into the box. And that's very important. Once that happens, and I'm going to tell you, he's going to send a clear message to the establishment and to all the power corridors as well, that I mean business. So that is why people want him to stay away, because he means business. If he comes this time with a 2/3 majority, he's going to bring a big change. I am assured.
Yasser Saab, thank you very much. For the record, I'm also an Imran Khan fan when it comes to cricket, but not when it comes to politics, unfortunately, because I mean, just the idea that he got into bed with whoever he needed to just get into power sounds a bit dodgy to me. And the fact that he comes back with a mandate, I mean, he's at odds at the moment with the establishment, with the army at the moment, especially his external sponsors. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not too optimistic, to be honest with you. But Shara, last final comments from yourself before, unfortunately, we have to move on to our next story.
I think Major Saab can correct me if I'm wrong, but Nawaz Sharif, before he was thrown out, came in with a 2/3 majority, if I'm not mistaken, or a substantial majority. The truth of the matter is this: ultimately, the establishment's call will take precedence until there is root and branch structural reform in Pakistan, which, to be very frank, we got to go to the raison d'etre of this country. It was created in the name of Islam, for which our mothers and sisters and daughters of the time sacrificed their honor, dignity, and lives to end up with this pathetic servant at the state level, not the people of brilliant people, dedicated people, grit and honor, betrayed by those that should be serving them. Until we have that change and we resume the purpose for which it was created, I don't share optimism, not because I don't want to, but because it is foolish to think otherwise, unfortunately.
Right, gentlemen, Basharat Ali, brother Yasser Janjua, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Great to have a fruitful conversation around Pakistani politics, Imran Khan, and what the future may hold. Until next time we discuss this topic again. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
That was an interesting conversation on Pakistan and UK politics, the turbulence in UK, or whether it's UK or whether it's in Pakistan. Seems to know no geography at the moment, no limits, because we're seeing turbulence in the UK politics, we're seeing turbulence in the Pakistani politics, and we're seeing turbulence in Iran. As I did say earlier in the introduction to tonight's show, if there's one common denominator across all the stories that we're discussing tonight, then that is instability and that is turbulence, right? And that's what we're seeing in Iran, where we're seeing the same in Pakistan, and we're seeing the same in UK. We're going to be speaking to Masood Sharjah. All right, in fact, he has joined now. All right, fine. So he has joined, so we're going to be speaking to brother Masood Sharjah, who's of course the chair of Islamic Human Rights Commission. But before we do that, let me just give you a quick update in terms of why we're discussing Iran. Some of you might have actually followed the news stories in the UK, in the Western press, if not in also the Islamic press. Scores of people have been killed over recent weeks, right? And there's been a lot of unrest, protests that have been sparked by the death of a 22-year-old Kurdish woman, Muslim sister, I believe, who was held in custody by Iran's morality police. Mahsa Amini was reportedly tortured, suffered a head injury that ultimately led to her death. Now, that's sparked wildfire protests across Iran, rather, not Pakistan, across Iran, right? Iranian governments obviously responded with further force, live shootings, water cannons, and I'm hearing a number of other things that have been happening across Iran. That's also spilled, actually, those protests have actually spilled across some of the European cities where there's an substantial Iranian community. I've seen it myself. I was in London a couple of weeks ago. I've seen Iranian protesters out in Trafalgar Square and across the central city of across central London. All right, so that's the kind of background. There's obviously a lot of resentment across Iran at the moment. Let's speak to Brother Masood Sharjah and let's try to make sense of what's going on in Iran. What's destabilizing Iran at the moment, and what are the internal, external factors that play, and let's see if we can get a bit of clarity around those topics there. We got Sayyid Masood Sharjah Sahab. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to Friday Night Live.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, to yourself and all the listeners and viewers.
Great, nice to have you with us. You heard my introduction. Iran is no stranger to actually stability, instability. It's seen a number of different events, but recently, obviously, domestically, it's seen a lot of instability over the last couple of weeks. Brother Masood, fill us in. What's been going on? What's driven this instability within Iran over the last couple of weeks?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Look, it's very simple, but also very complicated at the same time.
Okay.
The reality is that this whole thing, as you said, was sparked off on the sort of incident, or the incident was used for sparking this thing out of unfortunate death of a young 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian sister.
Yeah.
And the sort of the propaganda, especially in the West, started sort of a whole process on this. and they announced that this young lady was killed as a result of torture and so forth and so on. The reality is that she was, I mean, what we know as factual is that she was picked up. We know also from the video of a CCTV where she collapsed. She was in this center, a waiting room. She gets up. I don't know if you've seen the video. She gets up. She talks to one of the authorities down there, one of the people working there, a lot of other people sitting around, like a sort of GP waiting room, a large GP waiting room. And then when she finished talking to this person, she collapses and she falls down. The ambulance comes and takes her to hospital. So this is what we know factually. Then the issue is this, that that sparked sort of people coming out, demonstrating.
So that Masood bhai, that sparked off this now all of this protest across Iran. But I mean, it's not just that event, is it? I mean, a prominent Iranian, I was reading earlier an article, sociologist Mohammad Fazali from Tehran University said that the protests are not simply the outcome of recent events, but they are the product of more than 40 years of bad governance in Iran.
Yeah, look, if Iran after 40 odd years would not have opposition, then there is a miracle here. You know, we have after 3-4 years. Look,
it's not bad governance.
We can't have it. Look, let me try to explain. First of all, of course there is opposition, and of course there should be opposition. Of course there was demonstration. Of course it's legitimate for people to go out. Even the Constitution of Iran actually ensures the right of people to demonstrate. Then, of course, you can't have it both ways, to say authoritarian sort of regime and then people go and demonstrate, or university prominent people actually come out and criticize and so forth and so on. You can't sort of have it both ways. There also, we have to not be naive. We have to actually understand what is being bragged about, maximum pressure of sanctions over 40 years, which is there to actually put pressure on the people, denying them a certain level of medicine and all the economical and all the pressures that they have mastered. We can't expect for people not to be unhappy. And people have got the right. What also we have to understand that there is no, Iran have been under sanction for over 40 years. It's been under pressure from the Israelis, from West.
So that's fine, Masood bhai. Okay, I hear your explanation, but the point here is, what I'm reading is that when
I'm not explaining. I'm trying to actually open up.
Which is,
I'm not taking side here. I actually think as a human rights activist, I'm gonna come on to this aspect. Let me just say, I've always condemned and questioned when somebody dies in custody. We have in Britain so many people die in custody, and up to this day, not even one has been taken to court. Not even one police officer have been taken to court, let alone found guilty. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable in Iran. That is unacceptable in France and Britain and everywhere else. We are not talking about this. We are talking about the structure who actually gone into activity to create what they call regime change.
No, but what I'm saying here, brother Masood, is it seems like, I mean, and from the article that definitely I've referred to, that it seems like there's a fundamental.
You're talking about one article.
No, I'm not talking about article.
You're talking about Western article. According to articles, at the time of Iraq war, there was a weapon of mass destruction. Even UN sort of came out and said, yes, there is a weapon of mass destruction. Let us not be fooled. Let us not be fooled.
No, no, I agree. I agree. But isn't there a question here that we need to ask ourselves, Brother Masood, right? I mean, you mentioned sanctions. Okay, fair enough, right? But there's been several decades of high inflation, near zero economic growth, decline of the administrative system, and many other factors that have led to anger. There's a huge distrust of the clerics, right? You've got the younger generation who have got no connection with the clerics at all, and there
Well, how do you
seems
know? Look, you're repeating
yeah.
what is in
I'm,
Times and
no,
what
no,
is in
I'm,
Telegraph.
I'm,
You're repeating the same sort of newspapers and media which
yeah.
actually told us there is a weapon of mass destruction,
No, no,
justify going to Iraq, justify,
I'm,
let me finish, justify going to Afghanistan, justify going to Libya, destroyed Libya. I'm never been a supporter of Gaddafi, but Libya under Gaddafi was actually a jewel in the area regarding social services, the health services, the education, everything else. Now Libya is destroyed. That
yeah.
was the plan. That was
Okay.
the plan.
No, that's fine. We're not quite discussing Libya tonight, but let me quote to you from. I know what you're going to tell me, but let's take this quote from New York Times, right? Interview interview with a
Yeah, let's go with New York Times. Why don't we go with Jerusalem Post?
yeah, exactly. All right.
Why don't we just go straight to the source? Let's
Oh,
go
no.
to the Jerusalem Post and see
Let's-
what they say.
I like that. No, but I mean the point that the sister was making here, she's actually practicing sister, and she says, I wear the hijab. She wears the hijab, right? But she says what I don't like is the hypocrisy of the Iranian administration and governance, right? That's the point I'm making here. She's actually a practicing sister, right? Wears the hijab, and she
One
says,
practicing sister,
no, no, no,
look, come on.
yeah,
There was a practicing sister which actually on the Iraq war came out and said that in Kuwait all the children are being taken out by Saddam Hussein and out of the incubators and thrown in the street and stamped on. Then
okay.
we find out that she's actually the daughter of an ambassador. Look, what I'm trying to say, I'm not saying there isn't an issue. I'm not saying that the people haven't got the right to go out. But what I'm saying is that, if you rely on the Western sources who actually are...
I don't think you like my sources on tonight's conversation. I'll try to.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, it's not my fault. You're going... you might as well go...
It's fine. Let's come back to human rights and let's discuss human rights, right? Because of course you're from an organization that represents human rights, right? So what we've seen from the Iranian government in terms of response, right? Whether it's the water cannons, whether it's live fire, and whether some of the others, I mean, that definitely is not very Islamic at all. Never mind human rights, right? So, I mean, do you think the government's been too heavy-handed? I mean, we will come on to the protesters and what the protesters have been doing in London, right? Because I think
exactly. But you see,
they've gone over the limits too, right?
No. Look. This is the point. This is the point. Look, demonstration is something that is people's right to do, and I said, even Constitution of Iran sort of ensures it. But when you actually have a situation that, forget about Iran, this same group of opposition, as they're called, in London, they went outside the Iranian embassy. They start fighting among themselves. There was no supporter of Iran there except those inside the embassy. They fight among themselves.
Allegedly. Okay. Yep.
No, look, no, not allegedly. We got the report by Metropolitan Police that is saying that they started fighting and then they put 5 police officers with the broken bones into hospital.
Oh,
5
wow.
police officers with broken bones into hospital. This is in Britain. If they do that in Britain with the police officers who are not part of the Ayatollahs, then what do you think they're going to do in Iran?
Right,
then,
but that's
then from then let me just say, from there they went to Marble Arch. They saw a group of Muslims who have got no connection to Iran, mostly Asian. And when they saw that these guys have got banners with Islamic slogans on it, they start attacking them. They remove people's hijab. I mean, this has been established. Then they went outside the mosque in Maida Vale. They throw bottles of beer. Let me just finish. Bottles of beer, and so forth. Look, these are reported in Britain. This is not something that is an assumption from Iran.
Back to the Iranian government, right? Let's just focus our attention for a moment on the Iranian government. According to reports today, we find that the Iranian government is on the ground in Ukraine, aligning with Russia, apparently.
Where is your source for that?
I said apparently, allegedly. But just generally, I mean, what do you think here is going on? Is there an element of external factors here trying to destabilize?
I don't blame you for making these quotations because there is nothing else available. You know, allegedly, but this is not allegedly. There's nothing else available. Look, the fact of the matter is that there are. I don't know if I'm sure you don't know these details. There are 275 TV channels that beam programs into Iran as a sort of anti-Iranian government machinery. There are a huge group of MKO in Albania, and there are photographs that are available. Google it and you'll see that they've got these large halls, all computerized. They're sitting down. They're called online army, and they actually do tweets and so forth, and do social media.
Saudi, the Gulf, Iran. I mean, it's all there.
No, look. These 270. There was an article in Guardian that one of those channels, which calls Iran International, which is being funded by the Saudis, they actually got 100 employee in London. 100, one channel. The number of millions that is being spent on it was there. Look, Iran is not a darling of the West. That's very clear from the beginning of the revolution until now. Everything has been done to undermine it. When we are seeing sort of the economic chaos in places like Pakistan and so forth, without sanctions, without this animosity and so forth, then you understand that to have that sort of animosity creates problem.
But do you think that the Iranian the Iranian clergy is out of touch with its own population?
No, look, you are referring to the demonstrators. Yes,
I'm not referring.
But then look at the.
But, do you think they're out of touch?
Let me tell you. Look at the pro demonstration. There are millions and millions of people coming pro demonstration.
Tell me, what are the KPIs to show that they actually, they're actually in touch with the population and with when we look at economics, when we look at
let me tell you something. Yeah. Look, go on the Google and search it. In Amsterdam, there was a huge, or sort of relatively huge, just under 1,000 Iranians do demonstrate against the Iranian government.
Right.
One of the ladies down there, topless, right away, totally topless, and it starts saying, "This is what we want. We want to be able to be like that. There is nothing wrong with this breast. This is the breast that you all had milk from." There are people in Iran, in Pakistan, and everywhere else that they want to create a secular sort of everything is okay, everything you could do. There are people like that, and they're not going to be unhappy. But overwhelming majority of people, as Basharat Ali said, overwhelming majority of people, be it in Pakistan or Iran or everywhere else, don't want that. Okay. They have got a view which they want something
Masood, we're running out of time. I've got about 2 minutes remaining. Very quickly, you talk about Iran not being a darling of the West, right? But Iran and of course the US, they've been working for many years behind the scenes, right? Whether it comes to Syria, whether it comes to
where's your source for that? You can't even. Where's your source for that? Give me a source for it.
But tell me about
give me a source. You can't even find that anywhere.
No, the current instability, do you think it's got an external backing apart from the Saudis you refer to in terms of other factors?
Look, this is a question. I mean, don't you know the answer of it yourself? I think everyone who's watching this will know that there are external pressures to create havoc, to turn. Look, any part of the Middle East has been turned. Any of the countries which have been slightly not in touch, not in support of the West, have been crushed. Be it Iraq, be it Libya, be it anywhere, because what is the plan is to make sure that any of these countries will be unstable. These are not. Look, what is being promoted is not democracy. What is promoted is you're turning Iran into another Libya.
Right, Sayyid Masood Shahbaz, thank you very much for joining us on Friday Night Live. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but lovely talking to you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us.
We should have a cup of tea together sometime.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Right, listen, we have run out of time. And that was the Friday Night Live. Interesting conversation on Pakistan, the UK, and Iran. Do join us next week, inshallah, when we're back live on air discussing another series of topics. Until next week, it is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh from me, Hafiz Shaban. Until next week.
The messenger of God